everyone, and welcome to our inaugural YouTube recording. This is a new adventure for Pay Academy, but we're desperately attempting to get as much information to you all as quickly as we can over the new arrangements with regard to the government's job retention scheme. So what we're going to try and cover in this first one is the basic principles around furlough. We will then be doing another Q&A about how to actually calculate values for furlough pay. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Nikki Caster, Director at Pay Academy. Hello. I've also got with me James Dean, who many of you will no doubt have exchanged emails or spoken to, one of my colleagues. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through questions. All of these are questions that have come from yourselves over the last few days. And I will respond to those. Do be aware there are some questions that we still don't know exactly all the answers to, but as soon as we do know, we will let you know. Please keep your eye on our new YouTube channel because we will be posting stuff up here and we will be trying to use this as the best way of getting information to you. Right, so without any more ado, I will hand over to James. He's going to ask the first question. Thank you, James.
Thank you, Nikki. So first question is, can all employers claim furlough?
Right. So the situation is that as long as you had a PAYE scheme on the 28th of February of this year, by which that means you had your scheme references issued by HMRC, and as long as you had employees on the payroll at that date, then you can. The only condition on that is if you are publicly funded or you are a public funded or you are a public organisation, you will not be forming part of the furlough scheme. So this is for private commercial businesses that are funded out of the private sector.
Thank you. Second question, the government says that an employee would get 80% of their pay. Does that mean that that HMRC will deduct the 20% tax beforehand? In other words, the amount paid will be free of tax?
Okay, so there's a fair bit of confusion over this. You need to think of the furloughing of employees as two separate processes. You pay it and you claim it, and this is all employer driven. Nothing is being paid direct to the employees. Nothing is being paid for you to pass forward to the employees. The principle is you run your payroll, you furlough the employees as such as you need to, you reduce their pay if you are not topping them up, and you process that through your payroll with the normal RTI submissions that we will be doing. There is then a separate claim procedure. So yes, the money they are paid is subject to tax and national insurance in the normal way. Don't allow the 20% thing to get confused with 20% tax relief. It's irrelevant. If your employee you pay them £2,000 and that represents 80% of their normal salary, that goes through the payroll at £2,000, is taxed and nicked in the normal way. And then that £2,000 becomes the basis for your subsequent and separate claim. We will pick up more on the details of calculating how you get to those figures and how you make up the claim in another Q&A, in the next Q&A.
And what if I can't afford to pay the salaries before I get the grant through from HMRC?
Well, this is one of the big unknowns. Again, the principle behind this scheme is you pay it and claim it. The RTI rules require that you submit your RTI submissions on or before payday. I think my expectation is that it will be important that those RTI submissions have gone through at the time you make the claim, because I do think HMRC will look at those RTI submissions to check that you have processed through the payroll pay in order to help verify when you make your claim. However, payment to your employees is ultimately, it's possible to negotiate that with the employees. So if you are unable to fund that gap, and bear in mind there are things available, small business rates relief, the local authority, if you get small business rates relief, will be issuing checks, as I understand it, imminently, if you've not already got them. Could be 10,000, could be 25,000, depending on the criteria. Business interruption loans, time to pay arrangements, forestalling your VAT. These are all things that you could do in order to create some cash flow to be able to pay the employees. But ultimately, if you can't, What you could do is negotiate with your employees to pay them a little bit later. The problem is we do not know when those claims are going to be settled, and we cannot answer that question because we don't know it. But it's a separate process. The principle is, whether you can afford to do it or not, pay it, report it, claim it.
Thank you. And can a furloughed employee work at all? So, for example, if we really needed to keep an administrator working for an hour or two a day on cancelling orders, answering the phone and maintaining accounts, that sort of thing?
No, is the simple answer. Once an employee has been furloughed, they cannot engage in any work. They can engage in training, but that is it. However, there is an exemption, we believe, for directors. So director owners can be furloughed. Do be aware they will only be able to furlough their salary, not their dividends, but they can be furloughed. And as an owner director, you are permitted to continue to do certain activities in order to maintain the business, i.e. accounts, answering phone, doing administration. But an arm's length employee employed under an employment contract, as far as we understand it, they cannot work for you. They can be working for somebody else, subject to your employment contract giving them the right to, and they can certainly volunteer for other organisations, but they can't work for you.
And what if I go on furlough and then we get some work through for a week or 10 days and then nothing again for a period? Can I or any employee go on and off furlough? How does that work?
Yes, there are a couple of options here for businesses that have got still some capacity, but not 100% capacity. You could split your workforce into teams and you could furlough a team on and off. Now, you have to be furloughed for a minimum of 3 weeks. So you could set up and furlough one team for 3 weeks while the other team works and then switch them over after 3 weeks. The alternative is you furlough everybody, and then after a 3-week period, you bring somebody back, or you hold somebody still working and furlough everybody else, and they may work for a week and then they can be furloughed. However, do bear in mind the minimum furlough period is 3 weeks. So once you furlough them, if you bring them back within that 3-week period, you will not be able to claim the 80% credit against their pay. We do not believe there's any limit, as far as we're aware. There doesn't appear to be any de minimis at how long you come back to work. So we think you could be furloughed for 3 weeks, work 3 days, and then be furloughed for another 3 weeks. So in other words, it hasn't got to be 3 weeks furloughed, 3 weeks work, 3 weeks furlough. But we don't know that. There's just been no guidance given on that. So we can only assume that you could come back for a matter of days or a week.
And for how long will the furlough scheme be available for?
Well, so far, we know it's available from the 1st of March to the 30th of June. That's all we know at the moment. It's a 3-month, sorry, the 31st of May. It's a 3-month programme. So, and you can, in April, if you'd already run your payroll for March and you haven't furloughed, but it's now become evident that people were not working at the end of March, you can make those alterations through your April payroll. But it is currently only available for March, April, May. At the end of May, you will then have to make decisions about whether you're actually going to make people redundant, bring them back to work, renegotiate their terms and conditions. Of course, there is always the alternative, the option potentially that the government may choose to extend the scheme, but we don't know.
And the latest guidance from HMRC says I need an The latest guidance from HMRC says that I need an EPAYE scheme reference. What's that?
Yes, interesting, that one. And the client's already asked me that one this morning. We don't think they exist. We've never heard of an EPAYE reference. So we don't believe there is such a thing. We can only assume it's a typo. As far as we're aware, you will need your PAYE reference in order to claim, submit your furlough claim. You will need the number of employees for whom you are claiming. You will need the dates for the period for which you are claiming, and then you will need the amount that you're claiming. We do not think it will be per employee. We think it will be a bulk claim. But I say we will be covering a bit more of that in the detailed calculations for furlough in our next Q1. So it's just your PAYE reference, we believe. Watch this space. If they're going to issue everybody with an EPAYE reference, I don't see why that would be the case. We think it was a typo. that it, James? Are we done?
That's it. That's the
Oh,
first 7 questions. Yes.
Okay, that's brilliant. So we are going to be doing another Q&A, which will cover more the details of how you calculate how much you can claim for each employee and what the mechanism might be for achieving that. So do stick with us for more. If you've got any questions, please drop them on an email, or I believe you can comment on this YouTube clip. If you've got further questions, I will pick them up from there. While ever you keep asking questions, we will keep doing this and hopefully providing you with some answers. So stay safe, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed this to what extent it can ever be enjoyable, talking about Furlough Pay, and we shall see you very soon. Thanks, James.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Now I can't bloody stop it.